The abyss, the existential abyss between the destruction of the sixth cosmos and the formation of the seventh cosmos, was supposedly ruled over by the ancient, evil god Knull, although Knull claimed to be the manifestation of the primordial darkness and drew his power from it. The darkness existed long before him. Knull was initially happy to sleep in the void, but when the Celestials started building the cosmos, he became aware of something more. Knull was chosen by the Celestials to be the King in Black, a cosmic steward of the new universe. But Knull snapped, refusing to accept the duties of the King in Black. Knull decapitated one of them after creating a sword of live darkness out of his freshly cast shadow. Furious that his realm of darkness was being trampled upon. After being thrown back into the emptiness by the other Celestials, Knull tempered All Black the Necrosword with the cosmic energies of the slain Celestial's severed skull. Manifesting a symbiotic suit of armor from the eldritch darkness he ruled, Knull set out on a genocidal campaign against the other gods and life itself with the intention of recovering his kingdom of darkness. He became a legendary figure of horror for divine creatures even billions of years afterward. Symbiote Hive, Reign of Terror, hell-bent on returning the cosmos to the abyss, Knull created an artificial planet from the living darkness he controlled to serve as his throne world and base of operations. Experimenting with his ability to manifest life out of darkness itself, Knull began using the exoteric latitude as a dumping ground for his failed creations, which millennia later became known as the Exilon. Among his early creations were proto-symbiotes such as Mr. E, and presumably the other Shadow Realm entities like Shadow Man and Ka, as well as a horde of wyvern-like monsters. Establishing himself as the divine nexus of the abyssal entity's hive mind, Knull unleashed them upon the universe, utilizing them to subjugate innumerable planets, eat civilizations and pantheons, put an end to stars, and engulf whole worlds in eldritch darkness. The few gods who Knull managed to save were forced to join his army, made into his slaves by the living abyss, and used as sentinels to watch over the worlds he had taken over. Knull first came into contact with the time-displaced Silver Surfer during his battle with the Light, after the former Herald of Galactus used the power cosmic to liberate a world from Knull's captivity. Following a short but fierce battle, Knull overcame the Silver Surfer and transformed him into the Void Knight by infecting him with living abyss. But Ego the living planet set the Silver Surfer free and assisted Rad in getting away from Knull's symbiotic dragon pursuit. With the intention of taking the Silver Surfer back for his army, Knull pursued him down and engaged in combat. At some point afterward, Knull engaged an army of gold-armored gods empowered by the Light in combat and slaughtered all but one of them. Pursuing the survivor, Knull managed to impale him on All Black but was himself impaled through the head by the enemy god's spear. Knull and the dying god crash-landed on a desolate planet, where All Black left the incapacitated Knull for one of the indigenous inhabitants, Gore. Despite this setback, Knull chose to not hunt the thief down and reclaim All Black. Though he remained aware of Gore unwittingly following in his footsteps as the god butcher. After recovering from his injuries over the course of a century, Knull began experimenting with his powers and discovered that he could manifest amorphous parasites called symbiotes from the living abyss and bond them to lesser life forms, corrupting life rather than eradicating it. Let us watch the downfall of Knull. In the 6th century CE, two symbiote dragons, one red and one black, arrived on Earth and were given the names Grendel and Grendel's mother by the Danes, ending Knull's terrifying rule. Thor put an end to the Grendel's rampage by blasting it with heavenly lightning and severing Knull's bond with the great majority of symbiotes. The hive mind became corrupted with ideas of honor and nobility as the symbiotes formed bonds with kind hosts. This caused them to rebel against their deity and imprison him at the center of the throne world, which they dubbed Clintar, which is their word for cage. The Clintar symbiotes then formed an organization called the Agents of the Cosmos in an effort to forget their sinister past and atone for their transgressions by working to defend the universe that had once scared them. As a herald for Galactus, the Silver Surfer encountered Clintar and was engulfed by it. The symbiotes that comprised it tried to imprison him and Knull at the center of the man-made planet. But the Surfer managed to break free and make his getaway, freed by Carnage. A few months after the battle, an Earth-based cult dedicated to worshipping Knull, led by Scorn, obtained a sample of the Grendel symbiote in Cletus Cassati's corpse, intending to turn him into Knull's avatar and facilitate his awakening. When the sample of Grendel's symbiote was bonded to Cletus, Knull reanimated and psychically communicated with the serial killer, though the nature of their conversation is unknown. When Knull attempted to seize control of Cletus through the symbiote, Cletus resisted Knull's control and their connection was severed when the Grendel symbiote absorbed the codex, trace remnants of living abyss left in former symbiote hosts, that the Carnage symbiote had left in Scorn's body. Cletus desired to communicate with Knull again and decided to help free him by collecting enough codices to reconnect the Grendel symbiote to the hive mind. As his connection to his self-proclaimed apostle grew stronger, Knull began awakening and exerting his influence to corrupt both the symbiotes of Clintar and those stranded on Earth, namely the Riot, Agony, Phage, Lasher, and Scream symbiotes, after Dark Carnage was killed by Venom, who absorbed the Dark Carnage symbiote and remaining codices. Knull was reawakened and promptly destroyed Clintar, coalescing its constituent symbiotes into a fleet of symbiote dragons. Manifesting his suit of draconic armor, Knull was confronted by Zakdel, an Exilin-infected Kree. Initially bemused by Zakdel accusing him of stealing his soul, Knull revealed the true origin of the Exilin as imperfect symbiotes and stripped Zakdel of his, absorbing it into his armor before manifesting All Black's Necrosword form anew, leaving Zakdel for dead. Knull resumed his conquest of the cosmos, unknowingly hunted by his opposite, the God of Light. Using his living abyss to smother entire planets, Knull also began communing with Eddie's son, Dylan Brock, a human symbiote hybrid spawned by the Venom symbiote, by appearing in his nightmares. Blazing a swath of destruction across the Kree-Skrull Alliance's colonial territories en route to Earth, Knull laid traps to waylay ships sent to investigate, thereby claiming several prominent warriors from both species for his army. 45. Intent on settling his eons-old grudge against the Celestials. Knull hunted them down and infected them with living abyss. Knull also sent symbiotes and symbiote dragons to blaze a swath of destruction across numerous other spacefaring civilizations such as the XNRX, invasion of Earth. Arriving at Earth, Knull and his horde easily plowed through the minefield of derelict Kree and Skrull ships left over from the war against the Cattati. As his dragons rained down on the Earth and quickly overwhelmed the planet's superheroes, Knull emerged from one of the Celestials and declared his intent to destroy the planet, offering to make it quick and painless if given the human called Brock. Knull was attacked by the Sentry, who attempted to fly him into orbit and rip him in half, but easily broke free and reversed their positions. Knull tore the Sentry apart and seized control of the dark entity that had been indwelling him, absorbing it into himself. Growing bored of the conflict, Knull used symbiotes to seize control of the Avengers, X-Men, and many of the other heroes that had rallied to oppose him before encasing the Earth in a shell of living abyss. Out of desperation, Venom offered to serve Knull if Earth was spared, but Knull refused, remarking that the Brock he was interested in was Dylan, and ripped the Venom symbiote off Eddie before throwing him from the top of the Empire State Building. Satisfied that Eddie could no longer prove a pest to his plans once he succumbed to his wounds and his consciousness was trapped within the hive mind as a codex, constructing a spire at the tip of the Empire State Building, Knull began directing his invasion on multiple fronts by remote piloting symbiote dragons, indwelling symbiote-possessed heroes, and manifesting avatars. Knull attempted to claim the Ebony Blade, Sword of Fu Shi, and Ghost Spider's artificial symbiote for himself, but was thwarted and repeatedly taken aback by the number of heroes who possessed powers and weapons able to kill his dragons and damage, if not outright destroy, his avatars, as well as the willpower to partially resist his control. Reaching backwards through time, Knull resurrected Mr. E and sent him to either destroy the Ebony Blade in the past or use it to facilitate his premature escape from Clintar, though Mr. E repeatedly failed to do so and was ultimately destroyed. Knull was stripped of a large amount of his power by the Valkyries, who severed his unwitting connection to the Headless Celestial from the afterlife. When Dylan Brock entered the battlefield and began using his powers to free the people and heroes Knull had enslaved, Knull attempted to capture him but was attacked by Thor, who he recognized as the one who had almost killed the Grendel centuries prior. Furious, Knull confronted the God of Thunder, who was unimpressed and dismissed him as merely one of hundreds of gods of destruction he had vanquished. Knull overpowered Thor, but was attacked by Dylan. Casually subduing the boy and cocooning him in living abyss, Knull was distracted long enough for Thor to knock him off and rip his lower jaw off with a full power blow from Mjolnir. Enraged, Knull activated the symbiote-controlled Celestials and ordered them to raise the planet. Before Thor could leave to confront them, Knull, forming a new lower jaw from living abyss, manifested all black from his symbiote armor and impaled him from behind, sneering that he could sense Thor was already acquainted with the Necrosword and that he was its creator. Leaving Thor impaled, Knull turned to confront Dylan and voiced his intent to claim the boy as his son, commanding the symbiotes he controlled within the hive mind to imprison the symbiotes that Dylan and Thor had purged his influence from. Unbeknownst to Knull, Eddie Brock was reunited with the codices of Flash Thompson and the Anti-Venom symbiote and Rex Strickland and the Tyrannosaurus symbiote. They were able to take advantage of Dylan and Thor injuring Knull to infiltrate the core of the hive mind. The God Hive. When Agent Anti-Venom's codex bonded to one of the symbiotes that Knull couldn't control and was reborn into the world of the living as a white symbiote dragon, Knull immediately realized what was going on and furiously hijacked the Tyrannosaurus symbiote, confronting Eddie again with the intent of killing him once and for all. However, Eddie managed to escape the hive mind with help from the Venom symbiote and was chosen as the God of Light's new host. When the Silver Surfer appeared again, Knull was about to refight their old rivalry when Eddie, who had evolved into a cosmic venom, interrupted him. Eddie armed himself by fusing Mjolnir and the Silver Surfer's surfboard into a fighting axe shaped like Venom's spider emblem, much to Knull's dismay at his old foe's choice of host. Throwing everything at Eddie, Knull tried to run away but was overpowered and cornered at the top of the Empire State Building, whereupon he was flung to the ground and his symbiote armor taken away. Eddie reprimanded Knull and used the uni-power to destroy his body as he flew him into the sun's core, despite Knull's angry declaration that his death was meaningless and the void would ultimately prevail. In an apparent victory over the Dark God, Eddie utilized the uni-power to remove Dylan Brock's living abyss and destroy it, thwarting Knull's effort to take control of his body. That's the end. Unlock the secrets of storytelling through our video, our YouTube channel's guide to the art of cinema. Join us as we delve into the narratives, the characters, and the sheer enchantment that movies bring to our lives. From script to screen, we've got it all covered. Join us as we analyze, critique, and appreciate the magic of movies. Subscribe to our channel for more videos.